Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Weebearn, which helps you grow rich. We are a comprehensive money educational platform dedicated to nurture entrepreneurs, investors, and capitalists among secondary school students, cosplayers, and anime lovers. Today is the 8th live streaming in English, so let me introduce our channels. Weebearn literally means an otaku money-making channel, 毒撚賺錢台, or 娛樂賺錢台, a platform designed to facilitate financial gain, make otakus great again, and make weebs rich again. In today's market reading AI Miscellaneous, we're going to read a paper from OpenAI, 10 Advances in Mathematics and Theoretical Computer Science. A report, Learning to Replicate Expert Judgment in Financial Tasks from Bridgewater, AIA Labs, and Thinking Machines. And the Obfuscation, Building the Final Boss of Cryptography by Vitalik Buterin. Furthermore, a brief overview of our financial education offerings within the metaverse, personal development courses, life advisory, and life coaching services offered by Weebearn, the Otaku money-making channel is provided. 過嚟提供獨撚人生顧問同埋獨撚人生教練服務。Additionally, we are going to introduce our United Empires of Otakus, also known as the Weebearn VTubers Alliance, a decentralized autonomous organization (DAO) focusing on supporting the development of aspiring virtual idols of the future generations. We encourage participation from interested secondary school students or teenagers looking to embark on a VTuber career. If you are a secondary school student and you are passionate about being a VTuber, join our Weebearn VTubers Incubation Program and Auto Agency. The Nasdaq index increased by 0.9% to 25,603 points, with Amazon rising by 4.7% to 284. Coherent, echoing our previous financial report analysis of Amazon. This week, significant data releases include the manufacturing PMI, job openings, GLTS, services PMI, non-farm payrolls, and the unemployment rate. Key earnings report featured AMD, PLTR, and key earnings report will feature AMD, PLTR, and SpaceX. President Trump has decided to delay military action against Iran in hopes of resuming peace talks, causing oil prices to decline. However, this situation is subject to frequent changes and should not be taken lightly. The focus this week is on employment data. Stronger figures could increase the likelihood of rate hike within the year, while weaker numbers might indicate economic downturn risk. A balanced outcome would best support the market. Currently, the yield on the 10-year US Treasury bond is approximately 4.7%, suggesting that the market anticipates interest rates to remain elevated for some time, with a potential rate hike by the Federal Reserve before year-end. SPCX is set to release its earnings soon, and while expectations are not overly optimistic, significant volatility is expected, regardless of the results. Additionally, the IPO lockup period will expire in August, potentially amplifying fluctuations. Investment opportunities lie in undervalued quality traditional stocks, those value stocks, offering high dividends and substantial value recovery, as well as short-term treasuries for stability and income. For speculative ventures, at present, tech stocks remain under pressure, with capital increasingly flowing towards defensive sectors. The market's primary focus remains on AI profitability and potential Federal Reserve rate hikes. If any companies fail to generate profits as expected, will erode cash flow significantly, necessitating substantial financing to sustain operations. However, if inflation rebounds and prompts rate hikes, financing difficulties will escalate, placing non-profitable AI companies in jeopardy and adversely affecting the entire AI supply chain. Therefore, investment should focus on reasonably valued, cash flow strong quality traditional stocks, such as consumer staples, healthcare resources. Strategy, formerly known as MicroStrategy, MSTL, and based in Virginia, has demonstrated significant financing maneuvering in the capital markets and cryptocurrency assets. According to the Form 8K report submitted to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) on the 3rd of August, the company engaged in a series of stock issuances, preferred stock buybacks, and BTC sales from late July to early August. The company sold 1,638 bitcoins between the 27th of July and the 2nd of August 2026, generating approximately $104.73 million at an average price of 63,957 per Bitcoin, including fees and expenses. These funds were primarily allocated to pay preferred stock dividends, the $52.4 million and repurchase STRC preferred shares with $52.3 million. Despite these sales, Strategy remains one of the largest corporate holders of Bitcoin globally, with a total holding of 842,138 Bitcoins as of the 2nd of August, with a total acquisition cost of approximately $63.51 billion and an average purchase price of $75,419 per Bitcoin. In terms of capital market operations, the company executed an at-the-market ATM offering, selling 3,011,361 shares of MSTR common stock, resulting in net proceeds of approximately $219.6 million. A substantial portion of these funds, amounting to $250 million, was used to bolster the company's USD reserves, with the remainder allocated to repurchase STRC preferred shares with $28.9 million and augment the company's cash balance, $11.7 million. During this period, Strategy repurchased a total of 912,143 STRC preferred shares at an aggregate purchase price of approximately $81.2 million. As of the 2nd of August, including anticipated cash proceeds from unsettled ATM sales, Strategy's USD reserves have reached $4 billion. The company stated that these reserves are primarily intended to support preferred stock dividends and corporate debt interest payments. The board of directors decided on the 31st of July to maintain a high annualized dividend rate of 12% for STRC preferred shareholders for the half-month period starting 16th of August. The company also announced two cash dividend distribution plans, $0.5 per share on the 31st of August and the 15th of September. For tax purposes, these dividends are expected to be treated as a return of capital for U.S. federal income tax purposes. Management has clearly stated that they have no intention to recommend any adjustment to this rate unless the STRC stock price consistently approaches or reaches its par value of 100. JP Morgan's approval for Hashkey Exchange to open a client money account signals incremental mainstream banking support for regulated crypto venues in Hong Kong. The development can improve fiat onboarding, custody confidence, and institutional operational readiness for a licensed exchange, reinforcing the region's compliance-led market structure. Near term, the news is supportive for broader crypto risk sentiment, particularly for majors that benefit from improved market access and liquidity. American Bitcoin, ABTC, a company co-founded by Eric Trump and Donald Trump, and majority owned by North American mining giant Hut 8, has announced its financial results for the second quarter of 2026, demonstrating significant recovery in both production capacity and financial performance. In Q2, American Bitcoin achieved a record-breaking production of 932 Bitcoins, marking the highest quarterly output since the company's inception. This increase in production capacity directly contributed to a revenue growth of 8%, with mining revenues reaching $67 million, up from $62.1 million in the first quarter. Financially, the company showed marked improvement with a reduced net loss of $57.2 million, down from $81.8 million in the previous quarter, indicating enhanced operational efficiency and increased revenue. On the asset side, as of the 30th of June 2026, American Bitcoin held approximately 8,002 Bitcoins, ranking it the 16th among publicly listed companies globally in terms of Bitcoin reserves. Notably, around 3,090 Bitcoins have been pledged to Bitmain for purchasing and upgrading mining equipment. In the stock market, ABTC recently completed a 1-for-15 reverse stock split to maintain its Nasdaq listing after previously falling below the minimum bid price requirement. Despite a 6.4% decline in share price to $5.52 last Friday, there was a slight pre-market uptick of less than 0.5%. Industry analysts suggest that while Trump family-related businesses have been active recently, ABTC's reliance on Hut 8's technical support and its continued expansion of computing power have enabled it to secure a foothold in the competitive Bitcoin mining market. The company's ability to maintain production levels and achieve profitability will be closely watched by the market. Circle, the stablecoin issuer listed on the NYSE under the ticker CRCL, recently faced a significant setback on Wall Street. According to a report by CoinDesk, Morgan Stanley analyst James Fawcett downgraded Circle's rating from equal weight to underweight and sharply reduced the target price from $106 to $38, representing a 64% decrease. This adjustment marks one of the most pessimistic valuations on Wall Street. Following his news, Circle's stock experienced a decline of approximately 7%, accumulating a total drop of about 30% this year. The core concern revolves around the contraction of USDC scale, which is eroding the interest income derived from reserves. Morgan Stanley's concerns focus on Circle's primary revenue source, USDC. The report highlights that the shrinking circulation of USDC directly impacts Circle's interest income from reserves, with the revenue structure shifting towards lower margin transaction fees. Consequently, Morgan Stanley revised its assumptions for USDC downwards by approximately 33% for 2027 and 44% for 2028, estimating that Circle's GAAP earnings per share will be about 3% and 20% below market consensus respectively. Additionally, tokenized money market funds have emerged as a new competitor to stablecoins. The report identifies another structural threat from tokenized money market funds and on-chain deposits, which generate interest and can circulate on-chain, gradually encroaching on the balance and spread space of non-interest-bearing stablecoins. On the same day, BlackRock launched 2 new tokenized money market funds, targeting stablecoin reserve demand. For Circle, this represents not only a short-term rating adjustment, but also a long-term challenge to its business model. Bitget, a cryptocurrency exchange, a centralized one, has announced its decision to cease operations in Japan, following a warning from Japan's Financial Services Agency (FSA) in November 2024. This warning identified Bitget as an unregistered exchange operating within the country. Rather than engaging in the costly and intricate registration process required by the FSA, Bitget has opted to withdraw from the Japanese market. The exit strategy includes a phased shutdown of existing accounts, with new registrations from Japanese residents being blocked starting the 3rd of August 2026. By the 1st of November 2026, Japanese accounts will transition to close-only mode, allowing users to sell but not purchase new assets. After the 31st of December 2026, any open positions will be forcibly liquidated. BitGet advises its Japanese clients to promptly withdraw their assets and complete Level 2 KYC verification before the November deadline to potentially avoid being automatically classified as Japanese residents under the new restrictions. Japan maintains one of the strictest regulatory frameworks for cryptocurrency exchanges, requiring formal registration with the FSA, which involves rigorous compliance and oversight. This regulatory stance intensified following the Mt. Gox collapse in 2014 and the CoinCheck hack in 2018. While Japan is not opposed to cryptocurrency itself, it mandates stringent regulation to ensure market integrity. Domestic exchanges such as Bitflyer and CoinCheck continue to operate under FSA registration. For BitGet users in Japan, the immediate focus should be on withdrawing assets to avoid complications associated with forced liquidation, which may not occur at favorable prices. As you may see that even Japan also adopts this kind of protectionism in terms of cryptocurrency market, same as Hong Kong, Taiwan, and US. We Hong Kongers may think that the HKSEC always force banning foreign exchanges in the name of compliance. However, this is not a rare case. It is actually a quite common phenomenon across the global market. The government of Japan, Taiwan, and US also do the same. They also protect their own domestic centralized exchanges and ban any competitors. Ripple has strategically invested in Zillow and Lisuido to advance the use of tokenized funds as collateral from insurance. These investments are part of Ripple's broader initiative to enhance access to tokenized financial assets on its blockchain ledger, Zillow, offering global transfer agency asset solutions for wealth managers, and Lisuido, a UK Financial Conduct Authority regulated tokenization solutions provider. Let me type the related assets or the mentioned parties in the chat room first. Lisuido, a UK Financial Conduct Authority regulated tokenization solutions provider, they are the focus of this investment. Although financial specifics were not disclosed, Zillow has accumulated $58.7 million in equity funding. Ripple anticipates these investments will integrate regulated transfer agency, issuance, and collateral mobility into its XRP ledger, XRLP infrastructure. This move is aimed at addressing the challenges associated with idle collateral by facilitating use of tokenized funds, such as collateral from the outset. This announcement follows a VTuber investors' launch of a tokenized share class on XRPL, with approval from the Central Bank of Ireland. Additionally, Ireland. I think some VTubers could also come from Ireland. Ripple recently introduced Ripple Mint, a platform designed to provide institutions with innovative ways to manage its US dollar-pegged stablecoin, Ripple USD, RLUSD. XRPL ranked as the 11th largest blockchain network with 368 million in tokenized real-world assets (RWAs), while Ethereum leads with 17.1 billion in tokenized RWAs. Notably, the number of total RWA holders surged by 50% to 1.57 million over the last month, with the total value of tokenized assets increasing by 1.5% to 37.3 billion. Actually, yesterday we haven't gone through this article by Vitalik Buterin, so let me continue with this article first and then go through and then start the OpenAI's thesis. This is written by one of the Ethereum's founder, Vitalik Buterin, and it's about building the final boss of cryptography. So what is obfuscation? On the 28th of July, Vitalik Buterin published another blog post regarding obfuscation with Diamond.io. The obfuscation technology has finally reached a stage where practical implementation is within sight. The goal of cryptographic obfuscation is to transform a program into a black box that can be executed by others without revealing its internal workings. This is particularly useful in scenarios where the program contains embedded cryptographic layers. Allowing others to perform specific tasks under certain conditions without accessing the underlying secrets. Historically, while existing methods have been secure, they were impractically slow, requiring more time than the age of the universe to execute, rendering them theoretical exercises rather than practical solutions. Diamond.io has made bold assumptions to significantly reduce this execution time to a still lengthy but hopeful duration. The ingenuity of Diamond.io lies in its novel assembly approach. Instead of inventing new cryptography principles, it reconfigures existing building blocks, attribute-based encryption (ABE) and fully homomorphic encryption (FHE) into a more streamlined architecture. Conceptually, it encapsulates computations within an encrypted environment and establishes a mechanism whereby only correct execution of the program will unlock the final result. Any tampering results in a locked outcome. This eliminates the previously complex layer structures, thereby enhancing efficiency. To make this mechanism viable, three critical challenges must be addressed, ensuring that only correctly executed programs can decrypt without inadvertently leaking keys, ensuring output randomness for security proofs, and enabling executors to generate encrypted inputs without accessing the underlying secrets. The majority of the discourse revolves around solving these issues. In terms of security, Diamond.io relies on two relatively new mathematical assumptions, which, while avoiding common vulnerabilities of past methods, require further validation from the cryptographic community. Efficiency remains resource-intensive, and practical application is still distant. However, its greatest asset lies in its simplicity, lacking the intricate layers of traditional protocols, making it accessible for broader research and optimization efforts, thereby accelerating its journey towards practical use. And before talking about his new paper, Diamond.io, let's briefly go through his previous paper first. There's part 1 of the obfuscation journey. Obfuscation represents one of the most formidable primitives in cryptography, enabling the transformation of a program into an encrypted program that can process clear text inputs to yield identical clear text outputs while concealing its internal mechanisms. The concept of indistinguishability obfuscation (IO) posits that if one is presented with obfuscation of two distinct programs with identical functionalities, it becomes impossible to discern which is which, thereby obscuring the code rather than the data. So this is the indistinguishability obfuscation. This capability is akin to a theoretical trusted third party. However, the development of secure obfuscation trustless trusted third party. However, the development of secure indistinguishability obfuscation forms has proven exceedingly challenging. Historical efforts have been made to create obfuscation protocols with mathematical security proofs, but an ideal form has been deemed impossible. Consequently, researchers have focused on achieving I/O. Indistinguishability obfuscation, a pursuit spanning 2 decades marked by numerous setbacks and progress. Recent advancements suggest that I/O can be realized under reasonable security assumptions. However, the computational demands are immense, with runtimes described as galactic. Despite this, there are optimistic parallels to the evolution of SNARKs, suggesting potential for significant efficiency improvements. Currently, 3 primary families of obfuscation protocols exist, each balancing efficiency and security assumptions differently. The most rigorous family involves complex mathematical constructs such as lattices and matrices, distinguishing itself from other cryptographic primitives familiar to blockchain developers. The development of security protocols, secure obfuscation protocols, has been a complex journey, built upon a foundation of innovative research spanning several years. At the heart of these protocols is a lineage of constructions, notably the AJ15, BV15, LPST15, and LPST16 frameworks. AJ15 and BV15 were pioneering works that independently identify a method to construct a obfuscation using functional encryption, a system where an authority issues keys linked to specific functions, enabling encrypted data to be decrypted by those with the appropriate keys. LPST15 introduced a similar concept, but the functional encryption required was not yet feasible due to its stringent properties. The breakthrough came with LPST16, which advanced the field by leveraging sublinear compact randomized encoding and integrating it with a succinct functional encryption scheme, and a novel primitive known as XIO. XIO facilitates obfuscation that is marginally more compact than a comprehensive output table for all possible function inputs. Subsequent research has predominantly focused on implementing XIO effectively, although alternative methods like GLS20 have also emerged. In this discourse, we'll explore 3 critical components: the construction of an obfuscation protocol using succinct FE and XIO schemes, the development of a succinct FE scheme, and the formulation of an XIO scheme. To construct an obfuscation protocol utilizing succinct functional encryption FE and XIO, one can follow a structured approach that draws on the foundational principles of both technologies. Succinct FE allows for the encryption of a function, such that the decryption process reveals only the output of the function for a specific input, without divulging any additional information about the function itself. This is achieved through a setup where circuit-independent public parameters and circuit-specific decryption keys are generated for a known function with a single bit output. The encryption process is efficient, scaling linearly with input length rather than circuit size, while decryption scales with circuit size. However, FE alone is insufficient for full obfuscation, as it does not conceal the function and is tied to specific inputs. XIO complements this by encoding a hidden function with a single bit output, allowing evaluators to compute the function's output for any input without revealing the underlying process. XIO is particularly suited for functions that can be viewed as zero-input functions or thunks, producing large outputs. By conceptualizing such functions as mappings from an index to an output bit, XIO effectively reduces the complexity of revealing these outputs without exposing the entire truth table. The combination of succinct FE and XIO leads to the development of a sublinear compact randomized encoding, which serves as a sophisticated primitive in obfuscation protocols, enabling secure and efficient function evaluation while maintaining the confidentiality of the function structure and logic. In the pursuit of creating a randomized encoding that facilitates execution while maintaining a smaller asymptotic runtime and output size, we delve into an innovative approach to obfuscation. Unlike traditional randomized encodings that typically conceal input data without obscuring the function itself, Vitalik Buterin's method focuses on function obfuscation. By leveraging primitives that do not inherently hide the function, we introduce an outer function in the form of a virtual machine or Turing machine, which processes circuits as inputs. This approach allows the function to be treated as an input, thereby enabling its concealment, just like functional analysis do. The challenge lies in ensuring that the circuit representing the function is proportional to its runtime. Given that circuits lack looping capabilities, here succinct functional encryption FE plays a crucial role, allowing for rapid generation despite potentially large and deep circuits. However, the output size and encryption costs are contingent on the circuit size, necessitating the expression of functions in a language other than circuits to maintain a fixed size regardless of computational complexity. Through a trusted setup of succinct FE, public parameter and decryption keys are published, enabling encryption and decryption without revealing the functioners of inputs. The creator then employs an exile of a succinct FE encryption, achieving a balance between hiding the function and managing output size. This method allows for asymptotically smaller and faster generation than the original program. However, this method allows for asymptotically smaller and faster generation than the original program. However, this initial obfuscation glimpse is limited to one preconfigured input, setting the stage for further advancements in obfuscation construction. The process of applying sublinear compact RE primitive recursively involves recursing on the number of input bits for the function intended for obfuscation, and its base case, where there are no inputs, the sublinear compact RE is utilized. When an additional bit is introduced, a sublinear compact RE is created for generating two obfuscations at one level lower, each with the first input bit fixed to a specific value. The key properties of exile and succinct FE are crucial here. Exile ensures the obfuscation remains smaller than the sub-obfuscation as it generates, while succinct FE guarantees faster generation. These properties are vital for preventing recursive blowup. To evaluate the obfuscation program, one evaluates the top-level RE to obtain two new obfuscations with one fewer input bit, then selects the appropriate path based on the first input bit, continuing this process until reaching a final thumb that generates the full path result. This approach effectively manages a depth and size tree of potential evaluations for programs with n-bit inputs, avoiding exponential cost by only instantiating necessary thumbs. The original LPST-15 and LPST-16 papers offer an equivalent perspective by recursing on a node program, which preserves the input bits and maintains the integrity of throughout the process. Additionally, to ensure security, obfuscation must be randomized, which involves using a hash value to generate required pseudo-randomness. Randomized encoding, exile, and succinct functional encryption all require a seed as an argument, and each function must generate unique seeds for its subroutiness. Subroutines via a hash, which should be a puncturable PRF for clean security proofs. To build a succinct functional encryption FE scheme, you need to understand and utilize a series of cryptographic constructions. At the core of these constructions are garbled circuits and fully homomorphic encryption. Garbled circuits involve generating two labels for each wire in a circuit to represent binary values. For each gate, a table is utilized, published, and that maps input labels to output labels. But the mapping is obfuscated by sorting the labels and storing them with a hash of the inputs, ensuring privacy. This allows execution by obtaining input labels and processing through the circuit to determine final wire values. Originally, garbled circuits were used in two multi-party computation scenarios, where obvious transfer techniques help one party compute outputs without revealing inputs. In this context, gobble circuits are used as a component to achieve the desired properties for succinct FE. These properties include the ability to provide input labels without revealing the actual input, and a parallelizable per gate word, which keeps the depth low even if the original circuit is complex. For applications requiring function hiding, such as in multi-party communication, a universal circuit is typically gobbled, and the actual circuit is provided as input labels. However, in this use case, leaking details of the function is not a concern due to the use of a virtual machine wrapping approach. Fully homomorphic encryption (FHE) is a cryptographic technique that allows computations to be performed on encrypted data without needing to decrypt it first. This article provides a detailed explanation of FHE, focusing on its foundational cryptographic assumptions and also the foundational cryptographic assumption known as learning with errors (LWE). LWE involves solving a system of linear equations with added errors, making it computationally infeasible to extract the original data with the private key. FHE algorithms built on LWE enable encryption and decryption processes that support addition of encrypted data but face challenges with multiplication due to error amplification. This is analogous to the case of in linear algebra, the system of linear equations. The condition number in the of a linear equation, and different families of solutions, such as those using polynomials or matrices, address these challenges. The GSW sim based on matrices is highlighted for its convenience in FHE usage. Key concepts include the use of gadget matrices and bit decompositions to manage error growth during multiplication. This text explains how encryption, decryption, and addition and multiplication are handled within the GSW sim, emphasizing the importance of maintaining low norm errors to ensure successful computations. The post concludes by discussing the limitations of FHE, particularly regarding error blowup and message size constraints, and suggests that using circuits with logic gates to manage these issues. Let's come maybe consider this example. First, generate a secret S, and to encrypt a value M, first generate an otherwise random matrix A where S times A equals some small or low norm error E. And one way to do this is to generate both in two parts. First, generate a random S prefix, and then set S equals to negative S prefix with the last bit, last entry as 1, where here is a concatenation with entry 1, and then generate a random A prefix and a random low norm error E, and then set A equals A prefix and and then S prefix times A prefix plus E. Here is the vertical concatenation. Then compute C equals A plus MI, where I is the identity matrix. And to decrypt the ciphertext, read off SC and then concatenation -1, the last value of S times C. This is not concatenation. This is the index, the last index, just like in Python language. If you are a mathematician, you might notice that here they're hiding M in a eigenvalue of C. S is the eigenvector, so it satisfies S times C is approximately S times M. And they are not an exact eigenvector or eigenvalue, but there are some eigenvectors and eigenvalues with errors. But if you set aside those errors, and you may notice some properties that make these kind of eigenvalues special. Adding ciphertext is trivial. If C1 satisfies SC1, the last index of SC1 is approximately M1, and then C2 satisfies that the last entry of S times C2 is approximately M2, then C1 plus C2 satisfy S times the addition of C1 plus C2, and with the last entry is approximately M1 plus M2. But unlike before, you may also multiply these ciphertexts. If S times C1 is approximately S times M1, S times C2 is approximately S times M2, then S times C1 times C2 is approximately M1 times M2 times S. In such a way, we may bring back the error tolerance. So the encryption and decryption process can be expressed as C equals A plus mg, and then SC, the last entry of SC over Q over 2 for decryption. And notice the subtlety in the decryption, where the last column of G contains Q over 2 as its only non-zero entry. So when you multiply C2 by G, it actually gives you an object containing M times Q over 2 plus E, and not M plus E. This gives the error tolerance in decryption. You may use circuits with logic gates implemented as A and B is AB, A or B is A plus B minus AB, A XOR B is A plus B minus 2AB, and not A is E1 minus A, where E1 is an encryption of 1. Now let's come back to attribute-based encryption ABE. Attribute-based encryption ABE is a cryptographic method. Have I typed in chat room? Yeah. ABE is a cryptographic method where an authority generates key for a function with a circuit, creating a master public key and a secret key for the decryptor. The encryptor knows the message and attributes, but not the master key, producing a ciphertext. And decryption is only possible if the decryptor's attributes match those required by the ciphertext. ABE is often exemplified with scenarios like encrypting medical records, where access is granted based on specific attributes, such as employment and qualification, although its practical use cases are limited compared to simpler public key encryption. ABE has valuable properties for functional encryption and obfuscation, particularly in handling large circuits efficiently. The BGG plus 14 construction is ideal for succinct functional encryption and obfuscation. It involves working over a circuit with matrices for wires and randomly generated global public matrices. The authority publishes circuit-independent matrices and provides decryptors with keys satisfying specific conditions. The encryptor selects a random vector to compute encrypted values, while the decryptor processes these through the circuit to recover the message, if conditions are met. A critical aspect of ABE is the trapdoor mechanism, ensuring only the creator can solve certain mathematical problems, enhancing security. This scheme, however, faces limitations concerning circuit depth due to error accumulation, which can increase ciphertext size. ABE offers a way to encrypt data based on attributes with significant implications for functional encryption, albeit with constraints on circuit depth. And in FHE, to encrypt, the encryptor chooses a random vector S, computes C out equals S times D plus E out plus Q over 2 times M. They also provide the input encodings CI equals CS times EI plus G times tag I plus EI and EA equals S times A plus EA. Notice how this encrypting does not depend on the circuit itself. It only requires knowing and doing a few multiplications involving the input BI and D. And now the decryptor's job is to start with these EI values, lock down the circuit, doing a homomorphic encryption-like operation at each gate to convert the EL for the left input wire and CR and ER for the right input wire into EL for the output wire. The add case is again trivial, where EL equals CL plus CR, while the multiplication case seems harder. The formula for multiplication is CL equals XL times CL plus CL times G inverse negative BL. XL here is the actual value on that wire in the computation. And if you want to know the rationale behind for each component in turn, for ease of exposition, Vitalik Buterin writes G inverse negative BL as R negative L. You may recall that G and G inverse cancel out. G times R negative L is just negative BL. So XL times CL is XL times S times XL times G plus BL plus EL equals XL times S times XL times G plus BL plus XL times EL using the distribution. Distributivity, and then equals S times XL times XL times G plus XL times BL plus XL times EL, whereas CL times R negative L equals S times XL times G plus BL plus EL times R negative L equals S times XL times G times R negative L plus BL times R negative L plus EL times R negative L equals S times negative XL times BL plus BL times R negative L plus EL times R negative L. Adding the two together, the XL times BL cancel out, and we may get S times XL times XL times G plus BL times R negative L plus XL times EL plus EL times R negative L. The BL times R negative L on the left hand side is just BL times G inverse time of negative BL, which is the definition of BL for multiplication, and the right side is error multiplied by low norm values. and it stays as a low norm error. So the decryptor has everything they need to walk their way to EJ. If CTag equals 0 and S times XL times G term drops off from the definition of CF. So we have CF equals S times BF plus EF. Once they get to CF, they extend CA to get CF prime equals CA concatenate with CF, which satisfies CF prime equals S times A concatenate BF plus EF prime. And they compute CL minus CF prime times RF equals S times D plus E out plus Q over 2 times M minus S times A concatenate BF times RF minus EF prime times RF equals S times D plus E out plus Q over 2 times M minus S times D minus EF prime times RF equals E out plus Q over 2 times M minus EF prime times RF. Regarding the trapdoor mechanism, we do not construct A randomly. Instead, we construct it as A equals A prefix concatenate G minus A prefix times R, where R is a low norm trapdoor. And to satisfy a neat mathematical property, A times Ri equals A prefix concatenate G minus A prefix times Ri equals A prefix times R plus G minus A prefix times R times I equals A prefix times R plus G minus A prefix times R equals G. And you may get a better understanding by visualizing this graph. This is the trapdoor. Let's solve the short integer solution SIS problem, which is closely relative to the LWE stated before. So a critical aspect of ABE is the trapdoor mechanism, ensuring only the creator can solve such mathematical problems, and thus enhancing the security. The encryptor encrypts a value with a public key, allowing the decryptor to learn only the output of the circuit without other information. The process emphasizes succinct encryption, drawing parallels to attribute-based encryption ABE. The authority's role involves selecting a circuit, generating ABE public parameters and keys, and publishing these parameters. The ABE circuit processes an FHE encrypted input to produce specific output bits, with multiple parameter sets created for each bit. An alternative approach modifies ABE to encrypt two messages simultaneously, adding complexity but reducing overhead. The encryptor generates an FHE key pair, encrypts a value, and garbles the circuit to produce encrypted input labels. The decryptor uses ABE decryption to access these labels, enabling them to run the garbled circuits and obtain the output. This paragraph highlights the retention of ABE properties, where only the authority and decryptor engage with the circuit. The logic change ensures that the circuit is the sole evaluation that can be decrypted. The ABE's property restricts decryptor access to only intended input labels, preventing unauthorized computations. However, it notes a limitation, where the method is efficient only for circuits of limited depth due to the inherent FHE evaluation blow-up factor. The concept of functional encryption for unlimited depth circuits involves utilizing attribute-based encryption again. ABE to encrypt data. Let's move on to the unlimited depth case. To encrypt data to a specific function. This function then generates a garbled circuit again using randomness for the garbling process. This method is efficient because garbled circuit generation can be parallelized. allowing for low-def operation, even when dealing with high-def circuits. The decryptor employs low-def functional encryption to retrieve the garbled circuit, along with the necessary input labels. Subsequently, the decryptor processes the garbled circuit in a clear manner to derive the outputs. This approach effectively achieves succinct functional encryption. And to build an XIO scheme, so how do we build an XIO scheme? One must first understand its definition and underlying mechanisms. XIO, or in full form, exponentially inefficient indistinguishability obfuscation, is a method to compress data generated by a smaller program while concealing the program itself. It is particularly suited for thunks, which are zero input functions that output bits. The construction of XIO often relies on a primitive known as split FHE, split fully homomorphic encryption. In split FHE, the generator processes the FHE encryption and decryption keys along with a specific ciphertext. The generator encrypts factors efficiently and creates a hint that is significantly smaller than the ciphertext itself. The decryptor can use this hint to decrypt the specific ciphertext, but cannot apply it to other ciphertexts or glean any additional information about the FHE keys or the original communication. In XIO built on split FHE, when encoding a thunk with an output size, it is treated as a function that outputs the ith bit based on an index. The input space is divided into buckets, each containing indices that are FHE encrypted, using Gentry-Sahai waters (GSW). A special technique converts these ciphertexts into packed ciphertext, which is then accomplished by a constant size hint. The XIO consists of all these constant size hints. Three technical aspects are crucial in this process. The first is the modifications to GSW encryption. The second one is the packing method for ciphertext, and the third one is the hint mechanism for decryption. These three components are interconnected, as the packing is only used in hint generation and hint-based decryption. The modifications to GSW ensure it can only decrypt through hint-based methods, effectively making it a single cohesive algorithm. The WW21 protocol provides a structured approach to understanding these elements. Next paragraph outlines modifications to the GSW, to the Gentry-Sahai waters cryptographic scheme. In this updated version, a fixed public key matrix is introduced alongside a low-norm randomly chosen matrix and a new error matrix to enhance security. The dimensions of these matrices are crucial, as they influence the size of the hint necessary for maintaining LWE security. This modification affects the decryption process, as the traditional method using a decryption key is no longer viable due to interference from the new error matrix. Consequently, the scheme is better described as a homomorphic commitment scheme rather than homomorphic encryption, emphasizing its capability for secure evaluation without direct decryption. Here, Vitalik Buterin appears to be the next paragraph appears to be an explanation of a cryptographic scheme involving ciphertext packing and hints within a fully homomorphic encryption FHE framework. This scheme discusses how to securely combine multiple ciphertexts that share a common structure but differ in certain parameters, and how to derive useful information from them while maintaining security and privacy. The explanation involves several technical aspects, such as constructing a vector that isolates specific elements, handling cases where certain values are not powers of 2, and ensuring that the derived hints do not compromise the security of the underlying data. It describes a method to mask the hint using a fresh secret and a sample with large error to obscure any sensitive information. Additionally, the text mentions a modification to improve the efficiency of the SIM by using a generator to create an FHE encryption of a seed, which is then used in computations to derive necessary values without directly revealing them. This involves a packing procedure that aligns with the binary encoding of numbers and ensures that the output is structured correctly for secure evaluation. The explanation concludes that with a note on the XIO extended input-output system, which outlines the components required for executing the scheme, including public parameters, hints, and encrypted samples. It also discusses an optimization strategy to balance efficiency and security by splitting the XIO into separate components, each with its own trusted set of parameters. This approach allows for provable security while minimizing the overhead associated with trusted setup. The current state of cryptographic obfuscation protocols is a complex and evolving landscape. While significant progress has been made since 2006, since the 2010s, when obfuscation relied heavily on lattice-based multilinear maps that were often compromised. The field is still fraught with challenges. The primary issue lies in the assumptions underpinning these protocols. These protocols incorporate which range from robust to highly aggressive, and their reliance on lattice-based cryptography, particularly the learning with errors (LWE) assumption. Recent advancements have introduced protocols like WW21 and HCL25, which attempts to address vulnerabilities by adopting more stringent lattice assumptions. These protocols incorporate techniques to obscure error components and prevent adversaries from extracting critical information. However, they still require careful consideration of security margin, especially when dealing with programs of larger input size. The cryptographic community continues to grapple with the balance between provable security and practical efficiency, while some protocols like GLS20 offer solutions based on standard assumptions. They fall short of being quantum safe. Others like Diamond.io offer efficiency but rely on more aggressive assumptions. Ultimately, the pursuit of a secure and efficient obfuscation protocol involves navigating a range of cryptographic assumptions, each with varying degrees of reliability. As the field progresses, it remains crucial to scrutinize these assumptions and their implications for both current and future cryptographic applications. And here it discusses the challenges and methodologies related to secure program obfuscation. Particularly focusing on the necessity of trusted setup. It highlights that achieving fully trustless obfuscation is currently not feasible due to the need for trusted setups at various stages. The text proposes a pub-spoke approach using a multi-party trusted setup to enhance security. This involves a sequence of participants, each adding a layer of obfuscation, with the final participant incorporating all previous secrets. The process aims to create a universal and undateable setup, which is considered the gold standard in trusted setups. However, it notes that this method is costly due to the requirement of recursive Stark protocols, recursive Stark proofs, to verify each step's correctness and randomness addition. The text concludes by identifying the need for more efficient methods for universal and undateable trusted setups in obfuscation as an open challenge in the field. In the context of program obfuscation, The reliance on trusted setups plays a crucial role in ensuring security, yet presents significant challenges in achieving a completely trustless system. Current methodologies necessitate a trusted setup, typically involving multiple parties to generate programs with internal secrets without revealing them even to the obfuscator. A proposed approach involves an in-party trusted setup where each participant contributes to the obfuscation process sequentially. Initially, a generator creates a two-input program capable of embedding a secret into a given slot within a program, producing an obfuscated output. As each participant, such as Alice, Bob, and Charlie, executes their respective roles, they contribute their unique randomness to the process. This sequence culminates in the final participants integrating all previous secrets, thus achieving a collective obfuscation. The universal and updatable nature of this setup is considered ideal. However, it demands substantial computational resources due to the recursive application of stocks, scalable transparent argument of knowledge for verification. Each participant must prove the integrity of their contribution by demonstrating that previous steps adhere to protocol and that their randomness was correctly incorporated. Despite its robustness, this method's computational intensity highlights the need for more efficient solutions to facilitate universal and updatable trusted setups in program obfuscation. Again, the current state of cryptographic obfuscation protocols presents significant challenges due to their impractical runtimes, often extending beyond the conceivable lifespan of the universe. These protocols, though theoretically polynomial, are hindered by a complex layer structure involving ABD, FHE, and XIO, each contributing substantial overhead. The intricacies of these systems require conservative parameter choices to ensure subexponential security, further exacerbating their inefficiency. As we look forward, three potential avenues for progress emerge. First, a breakthrough in optimizing or simplifying the existing framework could emerge, possibly by integrating AB and XIO into a unified construct with enhanced capabilities. Secondly, adopting more aggressive cryptographic lattice assumptions could streamline the obfuscation process. Lastly, an entirely novel approach devoid of lattice reliance could revolutionize the field, perhaps necessitating the development of new foundational assumptions. Future discussions will delve into promising constructions like diamond I/O and local mixing obfuscation, which represent efforts to realize these transformative paths. Achieving success in any of these directions promises substantial advancements in cryptography, enabling secure implementation of protocols reliant on idealized trusted third parties. However, the journey remains daunting and demands continued innovation and exploration. Let me pause the Vitalik Buterin's paper a little bit and let me shortly introduce the Bridgewater AI Labs also. Yeah, since we have limited time, maybe we need to catch up a little bit quicker. And also we're going to separate our introduction to the OpenAI's paper into several parts and maybe divide it into 2 or 3 live streaming, I think. And let me paste bibliography in the chat room first. And now let's move on to the thinking machines paper. Yeah, I hope we may finish the thinking machines paper within before 3 p.m. and then we'll leave another hour to start with the OpenAI's paper. Yeah. So in the realm of investment, distinguishing Distinguishing valuable information from the vast influx of data is a critical skill, often rooted in the nuanced judgment honed through experience. This skill, elusive and challenging to impart, forms the bedrock of successful investing. Despite the complexity, there's a growing interest in leveraging AI to assist in this domain, particularly through the use of large language models (LLMs). By the way, this paper, Learning to Replicate Expert Judgment in Financial Tasks, is written by the collaboration between Bridgewater AI Labs and Thinking Machines. Their exploration into this area has focused on automating the task of information triage, filtering and processing financial documents to highlight material pertinent to investment decisions. While LLMs traditionally struggle with even basic financial tasks, we have discovered that with high-quality human annotations, these models can be trained to emulate expert-level judgment and taste. So the proprietary model not only excels in information accuracy and recall, but does so at a significantly reduced cost compared to frontier models. Through a rigorous training process, they have demonstrated promising results on publicly releasable data, paving the way for a vision of differentiated intelligence that aligns closely with specific organizational needs. This advancement signifies a potential shift in how investment professionals might allocate their cognitive resources, focusing more on strategic synthesis and decision-making while relying on AI for preliminary information processing. In the evaluation of frontier models on 6 information filtering tasks integral to investors' daily workflows, we observed that these models consistently underperform compared to internally trained models by Bridgewater AI Labs or Thinking Machines. The tasks included financial article relevancy, central bank document relevancy, generic document relevancy, ad hoc content labeling, document truncation, and email truncation. These tasks, though routine for investors, pose challenges for language models due to the nuanced decision-making involved. For instance, distinguishing the relevance of geopolitical financial news requires more than just surface-level analysis. As we've always mentioned that in order to make money or in order to manage your wealth, you need to do more in-depth analysis. Initial attempts to improve model performance through stronger prompting yielded some improvement, with accuracy increasing from approximately 50% to the mid-70s. However, even with expert-crafted prompts, the models did not meet the 80% accuracy threshold expected by investors. Despite employing both manual and automatic prompt optimization methods, the frontier models achieved less than satisfactory results. These findings indicate that neural model iterations are not significantly enhancing a performance relative to their cost. This suggests that fine-tuning open-weight models could be a more effective approach, allowing them to develop intrinsic judgment capabilities beyond what static prompts can convey. So besides prompting, constructing a high-quality training dataset for a custom investment model poses significant challenges, primarily due to the necessity for data that accurately mirrors the discerning judgment of investment professionals. Initially, we procured a dataset from vendors who provided labels from non-expert resources. However, models trained on these datasets demonstrated subpar performance. Upon reviewing the model's reasoning processes, it became evident that the dataset frequently contained incorrect labels. Given the high cost of expert labeling, we implemented a verification strategy that directed only disputed examples to experts for re-evaluation. This strategy entailed training a model on the non-expert label dataset and then assessing them on the same data. Instances where the model's predictions diverged from the original labels were flagged for expert review. This approach ensured that either genuinely challenging examples or incorrectly labeled data were addressed. The refined dataset was subsequently used to train the model, and its final performance was rigorously evaluated during using a separate halal test set. In the training methodology, they utilized Tinker from Thinking Machines Lab to efficiently manage the GPU infrastructure, allowing them to focus on model development. Their base model, Q13235B, was selected due to its well-documented fine-tuning performance in academic research. Initially, they implemented a standard GRPO and importance sampling loss strategy, which significantly improved model performance but did not meet the 80% accuracy goal. To enhance the training process, they adopted interleaf batching for multitask training, which improved accuracy by 12.1% compared to fully mixed batches. They also replaced the standard importance sampling loss with CSPO loss featuring asymmetric clipping, achieving a 10.1% improvement in accuracy. Furthermore, they also employed on-policy distillation with robust teachers, penalizing the reward form when the student deviated from the teacher's distribution to regularize policy effectively. By promoting checkpoints to teacher status only when validation accuracy reached new heights, they avoided distilling towards weaker models, resulting in an additional 3.1% performance gain over a static-based model teacher. In the pursuit of developing an optimal training recipe, they conducted multiple iterations, leveraging Tinker's accessibility to facilitate rapid experimentation. Their efforts have culminated in a trained model that not only surpasses frontier models in terms of average accuracy, but also proves to be significantly more cost-effective. Specifically, their model enhances average accuracy from 78.2% to 84.7%, resulting in a 29.8% reduction in errors compared to the best frontier model evaluated. This level of precision is adequate for the routine operations. Additionally, due to its compact size, the model achieves a 13.8-fold decrease in inference cost per task. As the authors expand the use of AI across their organization, training models tailored to specific tasks becomes increasingly crucial, with cost considerations playing a pivotal role. Through ablation studies, they demonstrated the contribution of each component in the training recipe to overall performance. The findings indicate that frontier models struggle with basic financial tasks, and that advancements in these models do not significantly enhance performance. Conversely, custom models, fine-tuned with high-quality proprietary datasets labeled by expert investors, consistently outperform frontier models across various tasks. Beyond improved accuracy, these custom models offer substantial cost savings. The writers anticipate further productivity gains from custom model training as infrastructure like Tinker enables swift experimentation, paving the way for a future where differentiated intelligence allows custom models to meet specific organizational needs more effectively than frontier models. OpenAI's new paper, 10 Advances in Mathematics and Theoretical Computer Science, details a collection of 10 significant results within the in mathematics and theoretical computer science obtained by internal OpenAI model. I think it's called Astro, GPT 5.6 Astro, I think. The primary focus of the work is centered on sphere packing coding theory and the resolution of long-standing conjectures in geometry and group theory. The paper establishes the exact asymptotic exponential decay rate of the Kohn-Elkies linear programming bound for sphere packing in high dimensions, denoted by delta D less than LPD. The authors prove that as D tends to infinity, LPD to power 1 over D to square root of E over 2 pi, which provides the first improvement to the general sphere packing exponent since 1978. This result confirms conjectures related to the modular bootstrap and resolves the Fourier sign uncertainty problem, showing that the sign uncertainty constraints APMD scale as 1 over pi plus order 1, some constant. The authors improved the classical asymptotic bounds for both binary and spherical codes by constructing two-point linear programming certificates that utilize high-dimensional projection gram factorizations. The work strictly improves the MRW exponent for binary codes. Okay, let me share this live streaming PowerPoint also. The work strictly improves the MRW exponent for binary codes and the Kapashenki-Levenstein exponent for spherical codes. The construction involves associating a d-dimensional subspace with each code point in a d-dimensional space, leading to a bound C less than 1 minus S lambda S dot d over d, where lambda is the largest eigenvalue of a transition matrix. Other theoretical results include group theory, where the paper provides an explicit construction of a non-Sovic group, resolving the question of whether every countable group admits finite permutation approximations. It also disproves Korn's rigidity conjecture by constructing infinitely many pairwise non-isomorphic property T groups that share the same group for Neumann algebra. The work establishes new lower bounds for arithmetic circuits. Specifically, it proves that for the permanent division-free circuits require omega n squared log n gates and formally require omega n to the power 4 over log n leaves. The authors prove exponential parallel repetition for every finite two-player entangled game in quantum information in the field of quantum information, extending the classical repetition principle to the quantum setting. For combinatorics and geometry for the closest vector problem, a reduction from 3 SAT establishes n to the power 1 over 400 vector hardness for the Euclidean norm. The sharp volume bound n plus 1 to the power n over n factorial is proof for Erhard's conjecture regarding convex bodies with a single interior lattice bound. A super-exponential lower bound is provided for molecular Ramsey numbers, Lk3 equals k to the power theta k. Two long-standing conjectures in external graph theory by Erdős regarding compactness and degeneracy are disproved using bipart graph constructions. The core methodology across these results relies on Fourier analytic methods, Mellin transform techniques, and spectral analysis of transition graphs. In the sphere packing and sign uncertainty chapters, the authors employ the Mellin Fourier functional equation, mgz equals pi to the power lambda minus z over gamma z over 2 over gamma d minus z over 2 mgd minus z. This is used to derive mass concentration estimates for radial functions. The coding theory bounds are derived by moving from scalar value programs to operator value configurations, where the transition matrix represents the overlap of subspaces shifted by the cos symmetry. The proofs generally utilize saddle point analysis on the Mellin integral to control the behavior of functions as dimension d tends to infinity. Let's start from chapter 1. The first advance in mathematics and theoretical computer science comes with the exponential growth rate of the Kohn-Elke sphere packing linear program, where the author determined the exact exponential decay rate of the Kohn-Elke sphere packing linear program. if delta D denotes the maximal sphere packing density in d-dimensional real space, and LPD denotes the optimal density bound furnished by this program, then the limit of the supremum of delta D to the power 1 over D as D tends to infinity is less than or equal to the limit of LPD to the power 1 over D as D tends to infinity, which equals to square root of U over 2 pi. The positive and negative eigenvalue Fourier sign uncertainty radii are both 1 over pi plus order 1 times root D. Here they use the Fourier convention and unit ball volume. F hat eta equals f at theta equals the integral of fx e to the power negative 2 pi 2 pi I ix 2 pi x c fsc equals integrate fx e to the power negative 2 pi I xc respect to x over the d-dimensional Euclidean space, where fsc represents the Fourier transform of a function fx at frequency c. This equal fx is the original function in spatial coordinates. E to the power negative 2 pi I xc is the complex exponential kernel. This specific convention using 2 pi in the exponent is chosen because it simplifies the relationship between the spatial function and its frequency representation, particularly when dealing with lattice structures. It equals to Vd is the volume of a d-dimensional unit ball, Vd. It equals to pi to the power d over 2 over gamma d over 2 plus 1, where this formula gives the volume of a ball of radius 1 in d dimensions, where pi to the power d over 2 is a standard factor appearing in the volume of spheres across different dimensions. The gamma function generalizes the factorial to real and complex numbers. Actually, we've mentioned this earlier. The significance of this equation is that in sphere packing, the density of a packing depends on the ratio of the volume of the spheres being packed to the volume of the space they occupy. Vd is the critical scaling factor that allows researchers to move from simple point configurations to actual density bounds. So a ball of radius 1 over 2 has volume Vd over 2 to the power d, and just by simple similarity in secondary school. For the real straw space S R D R, we define AD is the AD as a set. It defines a class of admissible functions which are used to derive the upper bounds on packing density. For f in S RDR, which means the function f belongs to the straw space on d-dimensional Euclidean space. These are the functions that are smooth and decay rapidly at infinity, along with all their derivatives, ensuring that their Fourier transforms are well behaved. And the conditions f hat 0 greater than 0 require the value of the Fourier transform at the origin to be strictly positive. Since f hat 0 is the integral of f over the entire space, this condition ensures the function provides a non-trivial bound. Whereas f hat greater than equals to 0 on d-dimensional Euclidean space requires that the Fourier transform of f must be non-negative everywhere. This condition is a requirement for the function to be a valid candidate for the linear programming bound. connecting the spatial properties of the packing to the frequency domain via Boschner's theorem. F less than equals to 0 on the unit ball on the complement of on a set where the norm of x is greater than or equals to 1 means that the function must be non-positive outside the unit ball. This is the key packing constraint and ensures that the function effectively penalizes or excludes points that are too close to each other, enforcing the requirement that both centers are separated by at least 1 unit of distance. By selecting functions within AD, researchers can use the Gorbachev-Korn-Ekis theorem to establish an upper limit on how densely spheres can be packed in d-dimensional Euclidean space. The density-bound LPD is obtained by minimizing the ratio of fh0 over f0 over all the all functions f in AD. While Varsovska used this framework to prove optimality in dimensions 8 and 24, this paper extends the technique to find the exact asymptotic behavior of these bounds as the dimension d tends to infinity, providing the first improvement to this general bound in decades. The associated linear programming bound LPD is given by VD over 2 to the power D the inferior f0 over fs0 for f in AD. The infimum that is a lower bound. This also as mentioned above is derived from the Korn-Ekis linear programming method for a given dimension D, where the value serves as an upper bound on the maximum sphere packing density delta D. In other words, delta D is less than or equal to LPD. The volume of a unit ball in d-dimensional Euclidean space is defined as pi to the power d over 2 over gamma d over 2 plus 1 as mentioned above, and then the main theorem proves the exponential rate conjecture, where as d tends to infinity, LPD to the power 1 over d tends to the square root of e over 2 pi. The packing sign conditions are related to the Borgin-Kosei-Kahn uncertainty principle for eventually non-negative Fourier eigenfunctions. In the previous work, this expression, the expression of A sigma D is a critical tool for bounding, also for the bounding sphere packing density problem. The expression is defined as A sigma D equals infimum of a set RG where G is not 0 and G is in L. G is in the L1 LDR. this value is the greatest lower bound of all radii RG, satisfying the three given constraints where G is a non-zero real value integrable function in d-dimensional space, where G hat equals sigma G is the Fourier eigenvalue condition. The function G is an eigenfunction of the Fourier transform with eigenvalue sigma for there is either positive one or there is either positive one or negative one. Functions where G hat equals G are called self-Fourier, and those where G hat equals negative G are called anti-self-Fourier. G0 equals 0 restraint means that the function is constrained to vanish at the origin. RG was defined earlier as the infimum for R greater than or equal to 0, Gx greater than or equal to 0 for x norm greater than or equal to R. It represents the radius beyond which the function G must remain non-negative. The authors used these constraints to demonstrate a sign uncertainty obstruction. Essentially, if a function behaves like its own Fourier transform or is negative, it cannot stay mostly negative for too long in space. This restricts how strong the auxiliary functions in a cone-accused linear programming method can be, allowing the authors to set a new sharp limit on how densely spheres can be packed in high dimensions. The formula represents a refined version of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. It quantifies how the requirement of being an eigenfunction Fourier symmetry forces a function to have specific sign behavior, effectively preventing it from being completely supported or localized too tightly. There are some general lower bounds for sign uncertainty and limitations of the Gaussian polynomial test functions of sublinear degree. And the second theorem proves the asymptotic equality conjecture in CGE 19 AGCHLT 20 with a common value predictor in AGCHLT 20. The authors observes that A plus D is less than A minus C for all D. Here, the Fourier eigenfunction sign uncertainty constant satisfy for D tends the dimension of the Euclidean space RD, where D tends to infinity. The limit considers what happens as the dimensionality grows to infinity. The A plus D and A minus D are the sign uncertainty constants. They represent the smallest radii R such that a non-zero radial Strauss function G, which is an eigenfunction of a Fourier transform with eigenvalue +1 or -1, cannot be non-negative outside a ball of radius R while vanishing at the origin. This concept is closely linked to the broken closed-Kahn uncertainty principle. It essentially constrains how spread out or localized a function can be if its Fourier transform shares the same sign or opposite sign as the function itself. The result of 1 over pi, that is the formula proves that as the dimension d increases, the radii at which this function must exhibit sign changes scales proportionally to square root of d, specifically approaching square root of d over pi. This confirms long-standing conjectures in the field regarding the behavior of Fourier eigenfunctions. These constants are not just abstract mathematical values, they are essential for determining the asymptotic strength of the cone-accused linear program. By proving that these uncertainty radii are approximately square root of d over pi, the authors show that there is a strict limit to how effective any auxiliary function in the linear program method can be. This allows them to derive the sharp exponential decay rate for sphere packing density bounds. The result settles a conjecture that had remained open, providing a bridge between the analytic properties of Fourier invariant function and the geometric problem of packing spheres in high dimensions. Let's go to the preliminaries for Fourier analytic. The authors reduced the packing and sign uncertainty problems to radial functions and established the Mellin Fourier identities used in both bounds. OpenAI repeatedly used the gamma recurrence and reflection formulae, together with their consequences for real B not equal to 0. By the way, should you have any questions you may want to discuss in the chat room, or you may discuss with other anime lovers in our DC server. Everyone knows the gamma recurrence relation. There's one of the definition of gamma function, gamma c plus 1 equals z gamma z, which extends the factorial concept. And there's also the reflection formula, gamma c gamma 1 minus z equals to pi over sine pi z. This relates the values of the gamma function at z and 1 minus z. It's crucial for analyzing functional equations where the Mellin variable z is reflected from z to d minus z, helping to cancel poles and maintain analyticity. The third identity evaluates the modulus squared of the gamma function along the imaginary axis where z equals ib for b a real number. It is used to bound the growth of Mellin transformations along critical lines, which is necessary to establish the convergence and exponential decay rates of the test functions used in the sphere packing bounds. Here, the absolute square on the imaginary axis, where the modulus squared of the gamma function of ib equals pi over b sine h pi over pi b. And the fourth identity is the absolute square at half integer offset. Similarly, this evaluates the function at z equals 1 over 2 plus ib. This specific form appears frequently in the asymptotic analysis of radial Fourier transforms, as it arises naturally from the properties of the Bessel functions used in the Hankel representation of radial functions. Fourier transformation use the convention where we note that the radial function and its one variable profile by the same symbol. With normalized Hara measure on big O of d, define the rotational average. Rfx equals the integral of fux respect to u over the big O of d. Write s rate rdr for the real Strauss functions depending only on modulus of x, and L1 rate rdr for the radial real integrable functions. Set AD equals AD and the intersection of AD and S rate RDR. For every continuous integrable f, rotational invariance gives RF hat equals RF hat, RF0 equals F0, RF hat 0 equals F hat 0. Consequently, The rotational averaging preserves every sign condition in the previous theorem. So the infimum in the third in the equation 3 is unchanged, where AD is replaced by AD rate. Moreover, RG is non-zero wherever G is non-zero. It's eventually non-negative. If RG is 0, the non-negative values of G outside the ball have zero rotational average, so G vanishes outside the ball. Its Fourier transform is then entire, and G hat equals sigma G makes the entire function vanish on the same exterior region, forcing G to be 0. For approximation by Strauss function preserving the Fourier eigenvalue and vanishing at the origin, suppose that G in L1 rate RDR satisfy G hat equals sigma G and G0 equals 0, where sigma is either -1 or +1. For n greater than or equals to 1, that kappa nx equals n to the power d e to the power -pi n squared modulus of x squared. This is a Gaussian kernel as n tends to infinity. This kernel acts as an approximate identity or a direct delta sequence, becoming increasingly narrow and tall. The factor n to the power d ensures that the integral of the kernel over the d-dimensional Euclidean space remains 1. Eta nx equals e to the power -pi x squared over n squared is a Gaussian function that decays more slowly as n increases. It is used to ensure that the function g remains tame and remains integrable at infinity after the convolution. Qn equals eta n g convolution kappa n combines the operations. First, the G convolution with kappa n performs a convolution between the original function G and the Gaussian kernel kappa n. This effectively smooths out the function G. Then multiplying it by eta n ensures that the resulting function Qn belongs to the Schwarz space, a space where functions that decay rapidly are at infinity along with all their derivatives. This allows the authors to perform Fourier analysis and handle a function's behavior near the origin and at infinity rigorously. For these three functions, applying Gaussian modification gives Qn in S rate RDR when Qn tends to G and Qn hat equals kappa n convolution eta n G hat tends to G hat in L1. Moreover, Qn0 tends to G0 equals 0 and Qn hat 0 equals the integral of Qn tends to G hat 0 equals 0. These three formulae provide the test functions that satisfy specific symmetry conditions required for the sphere specking problem. First is the symmetrization of Qn, where Pn equals Qn plus sigma Qn hat over 2. Qn is a radial Strauss function constructed through Gaussian modification, or you may call it Gaussian smoothing, to approximate a target function. Again, sigma is either positive or -1 is the desired Fourier eigenvalue. This formula forces Pn to be an eigenfunction of the Fourier transform with eigenvalue sigma, meaning that Pn hat equals sigma Pn. By averaging Qn and its Fourier transform Qn hat with the appropriate sign, the authors ensure the symmetry condition is met. The second equation is the positive eigenvalue basis. Psi plus x equals e to the power -pi x modulus squared. This is a standard Gaussian function which is famously its own Fourier transform. psi plus hat equals psi plus. It serves as the basis for functions with eigenvalue plus 1. And then also the negative eigenvalue basis psi minus x equals x modulus square minus d over 4 pi e to the power negative pi x modulus square. This function serves as a basis for the eigenvalue minus 1, which is the anti-self Fourier psi minus hat equals negative psi minus. Here the term x modulus square introduces the radial dependence necessary for higher order antisymmetric behavior. D over 4 pi is a normalization constant involving the dimension d. It is carefully chosen such that the integral of psi minus x vanishes, satisfying the condition that functions in this space must have zero mean or vanish at the origin in the frequency domain to cancel potential poles in the Mellin transform. Since Pn hat equals sigma Pn and psi sigma hat equals sigma psi sigma and psi sigma 0 is non-zero, the correction Gn equals Pn minus Pn 0 over psi sigma 0 psi sigma satisfy Gn in S radian RDR G hat is sigma Gn 0 equals Gn 0 equals 0 and Gn tends to G in L1. Gn is the resulting function that satisfies the required properties. It is a radial Strauss function that belongs to the real Strauss space, and is also an eigenfunction of the Fourier transform, where Gn is equals to Gn is equals to sigma Gn and vanishes at the origin. Gn 0 equals 0. Gn is zeta Gn. Pn is a radial Strauss function derived from Gaussian modification of given function g. While Pn captures the general behavior of g, it does not necessarily satisfy the condition of vanishing at the origin or being a perfect Fourier eigenfunction. Psi zeta is a specific auxiliary basis function. There is also an eigenfunction of the Fourier transform with eigenvalue zeta. Specifically, the paper defines psi plus x equals e to the power negative pi x modulus square and psi minus x equals x modulus square minus d over 4 pi e to the power negative pi x modulus square. So Pn 0 over psi zeta 0 psi zeta, the term acts as a correction factor. By subtracting this term, the authors ensure that the value of Gn at the origin becomes 0. Gn 0 equals Pn 0 minus Pn 0 over psi zeta 0 psi zeta 0 equals Pn 0 minus Pn 0. Since both Pn and psi zeta are eigenfunctions with the same eigenvalue zeta, their linear combination Gn remains an eigenfunction as well. This is given by basic additivity of eigenfunctions in the functional space. And here comes the radial Mellin transform. For a radial Strauss function g, write r equals x modulus and rho equals c modulus for the spatial and frequency radii, respectively. Set lambda equals d over 2. This is a normalization parameter representing half the dimension of a space. In the context of this radial Mellin transform and the Hankin representation used in this paper, lambda appears frequently to simplify the gamma factors that arise when performing Fourier analysis on radial functions in d-dimensional real space. SD equals 2 pi over 2 pi to the power d over 2 over gamma d over 2 represents the surface area of the unit d-1 sphere, the boundary of a d-dimensional ball, where 2 pi d over 2 is the numerator related to the surface area of a sphere in d dimensions. Gamma d over 2 is the gamma function, which extends the factorial function again. And is used to normalize the volume of surface calculations for arbitrary dimensions. The paper utilizes this constant in polar integration, where integrate gx respect to x over the d-dimensional Euclidean space equals sd integrate g out to the power d-1 with r respect to r from 0 to positive infinity. This is a common technique called polar integration to reduce multi-dimensional integrals into one-dimensional radial integrals. This reduction is essential for applying the Fourier analytic linear programming method. For rho larger than 0, the Fourier transform has the Hankel representation. G hat rho equals 2 pi rho to the power 1 minus d over 2 integrate g out g d over 2 minus 1 2 pi r rho r to the power d over 2 respect to r from 0 to positive infinity. Since the basal kernel depends on r rho, the radial Fourier transform becomes particularly simple after a Mellin transform. It reflects the Mellin variable and multiplies it by an explicit gamma factor. For real part of z larger than 0, t in real space, and r larger than 0, the Mellin transform is restriction to a critical line and Mellin inversion are mgz equals to integrate g r to the power z minus 1 respect to r from 0 to positive infinity. Xgt equals mg lambda minus it. Gr equals r to the power negative lambda over 2 pi integrate xgt rit respect to t over the real space. This formula allows the researchers to reconstruct the radial function gr from its Mellin transform representation xgt. This is so-called the Mellin inversion. The factor r to the power negative pi and the term r to the power it equals e to the power it ln r demonstrates how the inversion resembles an inverse Fourier transform performed in the logarithmic coordinate space. Specifically, after the transformation v equals ln r. Also, the last equation is a shifted Mellin transform xgt, where xgt equals mg lambda minus it. In logarithmic radius, v equals r set phi g v equals e to the power lambda v g of ev. Smoothness at r 0. Smoothness at r equals 0 gives exponential decay of phi g and always derivatives as v tends to negative infinity, while the Strauss decay of g gives rapid decay as v tends to positive infinity. Therefore, phi g belongs to the set S, R, and ordinary one-dimensional Fourier inversion gives xgt equals integrate phi g of v e to the power negative itv respect to v over the real space. Phi gv equals 1 over 2 pi integrate xgt e to the power itv respect to t over the real space. These are just from the definition of the standard Fourier transform. The mg hat mg hat z is the Mellin transform of the Fourier transform of function g. The Mellin transform is defined as mgz equals integrate g r to the power z minus 1 respect to r from 1 to from 0 to positive infinity as mentioned before. Pi to the power lambda minus z is the scaling factor related to the dimension d, where lambda equals d over 2. This accounts for the normalization constants inherent in the d-dimensional Fourier transform. Gamma z over 2 over gamma of d minus z over 2 is the ratio of gamma functions as a multiplier that reflects the radial nature of the function. It essentially maps the frequency variable z to the spatial variable d minus z. mg d minus z is the Mellin transform of the original radial function g evaluated at the reflected point d minus z. This reflection property is why radial functions are much easier to handle in a Mellin domain. They satisfy a symmetry condition across the critical line. Real part of z is d over 2. This equation demonstrates that for radial functions, the Fourier transform is essentially a reflection in the Mellin variable z combined with a specific gamma factor weighting. By transforming the problem into the Mellin domain, the authors can use the complex analytic properties of the gamma function to prove bounds on sphere packing that were previously intractable in the standard spatial or Fourier domains. If G0 equals G hat 0 equals 0, smooth radiality gives G hat r equals big O of r squared at the origin. Both Mellin transforms therefore extend holomorphically to real space, real value of z, real part of z larger than -2. And the previous formula continues to be to real part of z equals 0. So the apparent gamma pole at z equals 0 cancels. The line real part of z equals d over 2 is fixed by the reflection from z to d minus z. This line, the Fourier transform for t for real number t by x g hat t equals m lambda t xg minus t m lambda t equals pi to the power it gamma pi minus it over 2 over gamma pi plus it over 2. The xg hat t represents the Mellin transform of the Fourier transform of the radial function g. Xg of minus t is the Mellin transform of the original radial function g evaluated at -t. The shift from t to -t reflects the duality inherent in Fourier inversion. M lambda t is the multiplier function or scattering factor that can encapsulate the entire effect of the Fourier transform on the radial function's Mellin data. Pi to the power it is a phase factor that arises from the scaling properties of the Fourier transform in Euclidean space. For the radial reduction, assume that the admissible packing function f is radial. That a equals fs0 over f0 to the power 1 over d and define hx equals fax. Then h0 equals h hat 0 and g equals h hat minus h is anti-self Fourier. They vanish at the origin. It vanishes at the origin and is non-negative for modulus x equal larger than or equal to 1 over a. The obstruction comes from the Mellin Fourier identity. Lemma 3.2 bounds a normalized Mellin transformation z on strip modulus of imaginary part of t less than d over 2. The total L1 mass controls the upper boundary, while the Fourier functional equation controls the lower boundary. Writing lambda equals d over 2 Poisson interpolation gives the log of modulus z s plus I sigma lambda is less than or equal to h sigma s less than or equal to lambda m sigma log 2 pi c squared plus j sigma plus big O sigma of log c log lambda. Log modulus z of s plus I sigma lambda represents the logarithm of the absolute value of the normalized Mellin transform z at a complex frequency. T equals s plus I sigma lambda. Here lambda again is the d over 2, a scaling factor related to the dimension d. H sigma s is a Majoran function, a bounding function derived via the Poisson integral formula. It provides a control on how large the Mellin transform can grow at a specified vertical position, sigma lambda. Lambda m sigma log 2 pi c squared plus j sigma is the asymptotic leading term for the bound, where m sigma defines as 1 minus sigma over 2. This constant appears from the Poisson kernel integration and reflects the geometric weight of the strip's boundary. Log 2 pi c squared contains the parameter c, which releases to the radius c root d, where mass concentration is being analyzed. The sign of this expression determines whether the growth is suppressed. If log 2 pi c squared plus j sigma is less than 0 or not. J sigma is a constant that converges to log pi over 2 as sigma tends to 1. And finally, the error term big O sigma of log lambda is an error term that grows logarithmically with the dimension, which is negligible compared to the linear growth of the leading term as d tends to infinity. This estimate proves that for c less than 1 over pi, the value log 2 pi c squared plus j sigma becomes negative. This negativity implies that the Mellin transform z decays exponentially as the dimension increases. Physically, it means that any admissible function used to bound sphere packing must have very little L1's mass inside a ball of radius 0 d, which is the key mechanism used to derive the sharp sphere packing density bond. The authors then state the proposition 3.1, where for every c between 0 to 1 over pi, there exist cc gamma c larger than 0 and d0e in n, such that for every d larger than or equal to d0c, every sigma positive or negative 1, and every non-zero g in S rate RDR satisfying g hat equals sigma g and g0 equals c has the integral of gx modulus with respect to x for over the area where x hat where x modulus is less than 0 d is less than or equals to cc e to the power negative gamma e d, the L1 norm of G. Here the integral of gx modulus with respect to x for x modulus less than 0 d represents the L1 mass of the function gx concentrated within a ball of radius 0 d centered at the origin. In this context, g is an anti-self-Fourier function derived from an auxiliary function used in the Kohn-Akers linear program. X modulus or absolute value of x less than 0 d is the integration region. It is the ball in d dimensions with radius 0 d, whereas c is less than 1 over pi, whereas c is a constant. This indicates a small distance region relative to the growing dimension d. Dc and gamma c are positive constants that depend only on the chosen constant c, but are independent of the dimension d and the specific function g. The factor e to the power negative gamma cd demonstrates exponential decay as dimension d increases. This implies that as the dimensionality of the space grows, the mass of these specific functions must vanish rapidly near the origin. The total L1 norm of the function g over the entire space R is on the right-hand side. Its significance lies in the obstruction to packing. It proves that if an auxiliary function g satisfies certain Fourier analytic properties, being anti-self Fourier and vanishing at the origin, its mass cannot be concentrated near the origin. By showing that almost all the L1 mass of G must lie outside a ball of radius roughly root d over pi, the authors derive a strict contradiction for any packing density that attempts to be larger than the derived bound. This mass estimate is what allows the authors to definitely compute the exponential decay rate of the Kohn-Elkes linear program as d tends to positive infinity, settling a long-standing conjecture in the field. Fix C from 0 to 1 over pi d in n lambda equals d over 2 r equals 0 d and a non-zero g in s rate rdr r with g hat equals sigma g. C is positive or negative 1 and g0 equals 0. Let st equals 2 pi to the power lambda over gamma lambda be the area of the unit sphere. And logarithmic coordinate r equals real v, normalize the Malin inversion formula by setting rho v equals st over L1 norm of g rev to the power dg rev, where this indicates that the profile rho is normalized to have a total L1 norm of 1. L1 norm of rho is 1. The zero integral integrate rho over the real space equals 0. This condition reflects that the function g and thus its profile rho is an anti-self Fourier eigenfunction. So it must have vanishing total mass since integral of g equals 0. The function must take both positive and negative values, essentially cancelling out its total integral. Zt equals sd over L1 norm of g r to the power lambda plus it xgt. Integral of rho v respect to v from negative infinity to 0 equals 1 over L1 norm of g integral of gx with respect to x, where the absolute value of x is less than r. This equation relates the mass of the profile in the negative half line of the logarithmic variable. V less than 0 corresponds to absolute of x less than e to the power 0 equals 1 to the mass of the function g inside a ball of radius r. In the paper, r equals 0d represents a radius that scales with the dimension d. This identity allows the author to translate the behavior of the radial profile rho near the origin, where v tends to negative infinity, into a statement about the mass of g trapped within a small ball around the center. By proving that this integral is exponentially small for a specific c, this is a technical core of showing that no admissible function can fit its negative mass into this region, thereby forcing the density bounds for sphere packing to be lower. And here comes lemma 3.2. For every sigma from negative 1 to 1, the function z is bounded and holomorphic on a neighborhood of the strip absolute value of imaginary t less than equals to lambda. Its boundary values satisfy absolute value of z of y plus I lambda less than or equals to 1 and log of absolute value of z y minus I lambda is less than or equal to h lambda y. For y not equal to 0, where the lower boundary majoron is h lambda y equals lambda log pi r squared plus log absolute value of gamma of negative iy over 2 minus log of absolute value of gamma lambda plus iy over 2. Writing theta equals pi 1 plus 0, 1 plus sigma over 2, define p sigma t equals sine theta over 4 cosine h pi t over 2 minus cosine theta. M sigma equals integral of p sigma over the real region equals 1 minus sigma over 2. Then z of s plus I sigma lambda is less than or equals to exponential of integral of p sigma t h lambda s minus lambda t respect to t over the real space for s real. To prove this lemma, since g0 equals g has 0 equals 0, the holomorphic continuation and pole cancellation show that z is holomorphic whenever imaginary t is larger than negative lambda minus 2. In particular, it is holomorphic on a neighborhood of the closed strip. Its upper boundary values follow from equation 12, whereas the Mellin-Florer functional equation gives the lower boundary values. Z of y plus I lambda equals integral of rho v e to the power e negative I y v respect to v over the real space for absolute value of z of y plus I lambda is less than or equals to 1. Z of y minus I lambda is on the other hand, z of y minus I lambda equals sigma pi r squared to the power lambda plus iy gamma negative iy over 2 over gamma y plus gamma plus iy over 2. Z of negative y plus I lambda. Taking absolute values and using equation 16 gives log of z of y minus I lambda is less than or equals to h lambda y, independently of sigma. At y equals 0, the z of I lambda equals 0 cancels the gamma pole. Hence, z of y minus I lambda remains bounded. H lambda y equals negative log absolute value of y plus big O of lambda of 1 for t0 equals s plus I sigma lambda. The conformal map from t to exponential of pi t plus I lambda over 2 lambda and the upper half plane Poisson formula give the lower edge harmonic measure 1 over lambda p sigma s minus y over lambda dy, where p sigma and m sigma as in equation 15. The complementary upper edge measure is 1 plus sigma over 2 and its boundary bound contributes nothing. H sigma's logarithmic singularity requires a bounded truncation before applying the Poisson principle. The actual lower boundary value satisfy the supremum of absolute value of z y minus I lambda for real y is less than or equals to sd r to power d over L1 norm of g integrate absolute value of g of r over r respect to r from 0 to infinity is less than infinity. The supremum of the absolute value of the normalized Mellin transform z along the line imaginary t equals negative lambda. In this analysis, lambda equals d over 2 again, SD is the surface area of the unit sphere in d dimensions. R is the radius related to the support of the function g. The L1 norm of the function g represents the total mass of or integral of the function over the space d-dimensional Euclidean space. And lastly, the integral absolute value of g of r over r respect to r from 0 to positive infinity represents a weighted norm of the radial profile of g. The division by r is a consequence of transforming the integral from d-dimensional Euclidean space into polar coordinates. This bound can be applied to this bound can apply the Poisson principle in the complex strip. If the term were not finite, the subsequent harmonic analysis, which proves the lower bound for the Kohn-Elkies linear program, would be invalid. So by bounding the Malin transform at the edge of the critical strip, the authors are essentially proving that the information captured by the function g in the frequency domain is well behaved, allowing them to use it as a valid test function for the sphere packing upper bound. And naturally, GR is in big O of R squared and is stressed as infinity. In more general term, for eta between negative lambda to lambda, absolute value of z of s plus I eta is less than or equals to SDR to the power lambda minus eta over L1 norm of g. Integrate absolute value of GR R to the power lambda plus eta minus 1 with R from 1 to with respect to R from 1 to positive infinity. Absolute value of a normalized version of Malin transform of the radial function GR at a specific complex frequency. It is defined to assist in analyzing the behavior of function in the complex strip. Splitting at R equals 1 bounds the expression uniformly in S and eta. So Z is bounded on the closed strip. Choose D larger than maximum or between 0 and supremum y of log of absolute value of z of y minus I lambda. The strip Poisson principle applied to log absolute value of z with lower boundary Majoran minimum of h lambda d and upper boundary Majoran 0 gives the logarithm of the absolute value of the normalized Malin transform z evaluated at t0 equals s plus I sigma lambda. The function z carries information about the radial distribution of the packing function's Fourier transform. This logarithm is less than or equals to the integral of 1 over lambda p sigma s minus y over lambda times minimum of h lambda y and d respect to y over the real space. This is the Poisson. The 1 over lambda p sigma s minus y over lambda is the Poisson kernel for the strip. It acts as a probability density function or weighting kernel that smooths the boundary data of the strip, whereas the h lambda y's function serves as the upper boundary Majoran. It describes the growth rate or behavior of the Malin transform at the boundary of the critical strip. H lambda y is derived from the Fourier functional equation and gamma function group. D is the truncation constant, since h lambda y contains a logarithmic singularity arising from the behavior of the packing function at the origin. The authors truncated at d to ensure the integral is well behaved. By later letting d tends to infinity, they recover the full bound. Equation 15, the kernel decays exponentially. The singularity of h lambda is locally integrable. And Stirling's formula gives h lambda y equals negative lambda log absolute value of y plus big O lambda of y at infinity. Dominated convergence therefore permits d tends to infinity, and the substitution t equals s minus y over lambda yields absolute value of c of s plus I sigma lambda is less than or equals to e to the power h sigma s, where h sigma s equals integrate p sigma t h lambda s minus lambda t respect to real t. For every lemma 3.3 states that for every -1 less than sigma less than 1, there exists c sigma large than 0 independent of d, c, and g such that integrate p sigma t absolute value of h lambda lambda t minus lambda log 2 pi c square minus integrate log root x square plus t square over 4 respect to x from 0 to 1 respect to real t is less than or equals to c sigma log 2 plus lambda. It's crucial for proving the limit again, since the whole large integral is the weighted integral over the real line where p sigma t acts as the Poisson kernel as in the previous equation. H lambda lambda t, the term represents the true lower boundary majoron derived from the Fourier functional equation. Lambda times log 2 pi c square minus integral of log square root of x square plus t square over 4 respect to x from 0 to 1 is the model function. It represents the asymptotic limit of the boundary behavior as the dimension d goes to infinity. Log 2 pi c squares sets the scale based on the constant c. The integral term integrate log square root of x square plus t square over 4 respect to x from 0 to 1 captures the average logarithmic contribution of the gamma factors in the limit. C sigma log 2 plus pi is the error bound. It demonstrates that the difference between the true boundary majoron and its asymptotic bound model grows only logarithmically with the dimension lambda. This slow growth is why the approximation remains powerful even in very high dimensions. The lemma bridges the gap between discrete gamma function identities and smooth continuous approximations, showing that the difference between the real transform and the model is bounded by big O of log lambda. The authors can prove that the packing density behaves according to the predicted exponential decay rate as d tends to infinity. Next, we define j sigma equals -1 over m sigma. Integrate p sigma t over the real space, integrate log square root of x square plus t square over 4 respect to x from 0 to 1, the whole thing. Then for every x, for every real x s, h sigma of s is less than or equals to h sigma of 0, which equals to lambda m sigma log 2 pi c square plus j sigma plus big O sigma of log 2 plus lambda. To estimate the lower boundary majoron, we simply put with r equals c square root of 2 pi, we simply put ftx equals log square root of x square plus t square over 4 and b equals lambda t over 2. If d equals 2n such that lambda equals n, the gamma occurrence and gamma of negative ib absolute value equals gamma of ib absolute value give for t non-zero h and nt equals n log 2 pi c square minus summation of ftq over n for k from 0 to n minus 1. The monotonicity of ft bounds the Riemann sum error by ft1 minus ft0. Thus, 0 is less than or equals to h and nt minus n times log 2 pi c square minus integrate ftx with respect to x from 0 to 1 less than or equals to log 1 plus 4 over t square over 2. This inequality establishes a tight bound on the error. It shows that the difference between the discrete sum and the integral approximation vanishes at a control rate as n tends to infinity. H and nt is the lower boundary majoron defined in the previous equation 14 in the paper. It arises from the Fourier identity and represents the growth of the test function's Mellin transform on the strip. N log n log 2 pi c squared minus integral of ftx with respect to x from 0 to 1 represents the asymptotic mean term. Here, log 2 pi c squared is the constant related to the sphere packing density limit. ftx equals log of square root of x squared plus t squared over 4 is the integrand that arises from the logarithmic transformation of the radial Fourier transform. The integral integrate ftx with respect to x from 0 to 1 is the average value over the unit interval, which is essentially a Riemann sum approximation. N acts as the dimension factor, n equals d over 2. As the dimension increases, this term scales the entire error analysis. If d equals 2n plus 1, so lambda is n plus 1 over 2, the gamma identities in equation 7 instead give h lambda lambda t equals lambda log 2 pi c squared minus summation of ft k plus 1 over 2 over pi for k from 0 to n minus 1 plus log pi over 2 plus log cotangent h pi epsilon of b over epsilon of b over 2. H lambda lambda t is the Majoran function on the lower bound of the critical Mellin strip. Lambda log 2 pi c squared captures the leading order growth associated with the scaling of the radius c root d in high dimension d equals 2 pi lambda. A midpoint Riemann sum of the function ftx equals log square root of x squared plus t squared over 4 gives summation of ft k plus 1 over 2 over lambda k from 0 to n minus 1. This reflects the discretization of the Mellin integral in odd dimensions, where the gamma factors do not align perfectly with the integral lattice. Log pi over 2 is a correct term arising from string-like approximation of the gamma functions involved in Mellin Fourier functional equation. Cotangent h pi epsilon of b over epsilon of b over 2, this term handles the non-zero imaginary part of the frequency variables, where b equals lambda t over 2. The cotangent h function arises from the reflection formula for the gamma function. Since the absolute value of gamma of 1 over 2 plus ib squared equals to pi over cosine h pi b, which is essential for maintaining the analytical properties of the Mellin transform on the critical line. Adding c log 2, this midpoint Riemann sum error on the closed interval from 0 to n over lambda is at most ft n over lambda minus ft 0. The remaining interval, closed interval from n over lambda to 1 has length 1 over 2 lambda. Together, these contributions are bounded by c1 plus log 2 plus epsilon of t plus log 2 plus epsilon of t inverse. Adding c log 2 plus lambda also bounds the gamma endpoint correction 1 log lambda over 2 plus log of cotangent h pi epsilon of b over epsilon of b over 2. Since t sigma t is far less than e to the power negative pi t over 2 and log 2 plus 1 over epsilon of t is locally integrable. Integrating the even and odd dimensional bounds proves the 19th equation. To identify the maximum of the Poisson extension h sigma, since both h sigma, h lambda and p sigma are even, the digamma series gives for y larger than 0, h gamma y equals imaginary part of psi lambda plus iy over 2 minus imaginary part psi of iy over 2 is less than 0. This represents the derivative of the Majoran function h lambda y with respect to y. Psi denotes the digamma function, which is the logarithmic derivative of the gamma function. Psi c equals gamma prime c over gamma c. The inequality h lambda prime y less than 0 for y larger than 0 demonstrates that h lambda is a strictly decreasing function. This property ensures that the majoran is well behaved, allowing the authors to bound the growth of the Mellin transform C effectively. The digamma representation expression on the right defines the imaginary part of the digamma function in the complex plane. Imaginary part of psi of a plus ib equals summation b over k plus a squared plus b squared for k from 0 to infinity. A and b are the real and imaginary components of the input z equals a plus ib. This series representation shows that for any b larger than 0, each term in the sum is positive, making imaginary part of psi of a plus ib positive as well. The difference imaginary part of psi of lambda plus iy over 2 minus imaginary part of psi of iy over 2 is negative because the digamma function's imaginary part decreases as the real part of its argument lambda increases, confirming that the overall negative derivative of h lambda y since I'm about to go to a Bitcoin event in Longbridge AI Cafe, let me pause the live streaming of this OpenAI article by here, and we may continue in the next night live streaming. Again, thank you for your support. If you find this live streaming beneficial to your money management or your personal growth, please like and share with your friends who love anime, AI, cosplay, gaming, macroeconomics, technology, and options trading. Please subscribe to Weebearn on YouTube. Again, Weebearn is a comprehensive money educational platform dedicated to nurture entrepreneurs, investors, and capitalists among secondary school students, cosplayers, and anime lovers.本內容講係個人分享，講參考之用，並不構成要嘅銷售之內容數為任何保證，亦不構成投資建議、專業意見。業務之外，與香港推廣任何加碼貨幣投資嘅風險，投資標的價值可升可跌，個別不一定可預期將來表現，實作出任何投資決定前，投資應參與相關上市文件做風險評估，並諮詢專業意見。本內容無意總合所述證券或投資牽涉任何風險。本內容所述資料根據獨撚認為可靠的資料來源編製，該等資料來源未經獨立核證，故不會就本內容為準確性或轉身，不需任何保證陳述或擔保。本內容無意向派發本內容即觸犯法例或規例的司法程序或國家的任何人士或使得派發，亦無意供該等人士或使得使用。